You didn't come here to live a life built from other people's expectations. You weren't born to carry the weight of their opinions. You weren't created to become a performance. You weren't designed to fit into a shape that was too small for your soul. But somewhere along the way, that's exactly what happened. As children, we don't choose our beliefs. We inherit them. From parents, from teachers, from culture, from fear, from survival, from repetition. You learned rules before you learned yourself. You learned how to behave before you learned how to feel. You learned how to be accepted before you learned how to be authentic. And slowly, layer by layer, a version of you was constructed. A version that played roles to keep peace, to stay safe, to be loved, to avoid conflict, to be the good girl, to be the strong one, to be the quiet one, to be the responsible one, to be the sensitive one, to be the fixer, to be the giver. The roles multiplied until one day you weren't sure who you were without them. You learned to look outside yourself for validation. You learned that approval meant safety. You learned that shrinking was easier than disappointing people. You learned that being exhausted was normal. You learned that your needs were a burden. You learned that your truth was too much. Everything you thought was you was actually conditioning. Patterns, copies, hand-me-down beliefs, and you carried them like armor because they helped you survive. But surviving is not the same as living. The world taught you to chase. Perfection, productivity, proving yourself, pleasing others, earning your value, earning your rest, earning your worthiness. But these were never your truths. They were adopted behaviors, inherited stories, and now they're cracking, not because you're failing, but because you're awakening. The unlearning begins when the old ways stop working. You feel it like a friction, a heaviness, a tightness in your chest, a voice whispering, there must be more than this. You wake up and realize you're tired of performing, tired of pretending, tired of shrinking, tired of molding yourself into shapes that deny your spirit. Unlearning starts with one tiny realization. The life you built was based on who you had to be, not who you really are. There's a moment, and you know it, when everything feels wrong, but you can't explain why. Nothing dramatic, nothing chaotic, just an inner shift, a knowing, a vibration, a change in the air. Your body says no before your mind understands. Your intuition pushes forward before your logic catches up. Your soul expands before your identity has time to adjust. You're not breaking, you're restructuring. You're not falling apart, you're falling into place. The unlearning is not destruction, it's alignment. The version of you who learned to survive is not the version of you who is ready to live. And that version, the real you, is rising, softly, quietly, naturally, inevitably. But here's the part the world doesn't teach. Unlearning is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering yourself. The you before the condition. The you before the survival mode. The you before you learned to apologize for existing. The you before you dimmed your light. The you before fear shaped your choices. That version has always been there, watching, waiting, whispering to you in the moments between breaths. You don't need to tear your life apart. You don't need to force transformation. You don't need to rush. Unlearning happens the same way the sun rises. Slowly at first, softly, gently, then all at once. And today, right here, in this moment, listening to these words with your body tired and fragile but your spirit steady and open, you are already unlearning. Already loosening the grip of old beliefs. Already stepping out of the roles you had to play. Already returning to yourself. Take a breath with me. In slow release, this is the beginning, and it will set the tone for everything that comes next. Let's say it softly. You are not the roles you had to play. You are not the expectations you absorbed. You are not the beliefs handed to you. You are not the mask you wore to survive. You are more than that, deeper than that, wiser than that, older than that. Your conditioning is a story, a script someone else wrote, a character you played so well you forgot it was a role. Your soul is the real you, the ancient you, the always you. But conditioning can feel louder than truth, because conditioning is familiar, safe, predictable, comfortable in its discomfort, consistent in its chaos. It takes courage to see the difference. You were taught to be strong, but not vulnerable. Taught to be kind, but not boundaried. Taught to be quiet, but not authentic. Taught to be helpful, but not whole. Your programming told you, hide your pain. Smile even when you're breaking. Be who they need. Silence your intuition. Don't upset anyone. Don't stand out. Don't make noise. Don't take up space. But now something deeper in you is awakening. A knowing, a pulse, a rhythm. The real you is pushing through the cracks. The truth is surfacing. The masks are slipping. The roles feel too tight. The performances feel exhausting. The old patterns feel heavy because you're not meant to stay conditioned. You're meant to come alive. Unlearning begins with honesty. The person you became was shaped to survive the environment you were in. That doesn't mean it's who you truly are. If you grew up in silence, you learned silence. If you grew up in chaos, you learned chaos. If you grew up in emotional distance, you learned to numb. If you grew up around fear, you learned to anticipate danger. If you grew up needing to be the strong one, you learned to deny your softness. But you grew, you changed, you awakened, you evolved. And now those old responses feel outdated. They feel too heavy to carry, too limiting, too small, because they were designed for a younger version of you, not the woman you are now. Here's something powerful. Everything you learned, you can unlearn. Everything that shaped you, you can reshape. Everything that dimmed you, you can release. Everything that hurt you, you can heal. Everything that silenced you, you can reclaim. Let's say it again, gently, with truth. You are not broken. You are programmed, and programming can be rewritten. Unlearning doesn't happen through force. It happens through awareness. You start noticing the patterns, why you apologize too much, why you shrink in rooms, why you overgive, why you worry about upsetting people, why you feel responsible for everyone's emotions, why you dismiss your own needs, why you struggle to rest, why you fear disappointing anyone. These are patterns, not personality. They were taught, not chosen, and they can be untaught. You don't heal by becoming someone new. You heal by becoming yourself. The real you beneath the conditioning, the raw you beneath the layers, the intuitive you beneath the noise, the ancient you beneath the performance. You are not your programming. You are the awareness that sees it. You are not your trauma. You are the healing. You are not your patterns. You are the shift. You are not your survival mode. You are the awakening. There comes a moment in every awakening when you look around at your life and realize, I built this version of myself to survive, not to thrive. You built routines that kept you functioning. You built relationships that matched your patterns. You built habits that helped you cope. You built dreams that fit the fears you once had. You built a life around pleasing others instead of honoring yourself. And none of this makes you wrong. It makes you human. We all construct a life from the tools we were given at the time. If you only had survival tools, you built a survival life. If you were taught to stay quiet, you built a quiet existence. If you were taught to play small, you built small dreams. If you were taught to prioritize others, you built a life where you are last. And at first, that life feels fine, predictable, safe, familiar. But as you awaken, as you grow, as your frequency rises, as your self-awareness deepens, you begin to feel it, the tightness, the friction, the mismatch, the discomfort. Your old life no longer fits the person you're becoming. It's like wearing clothes 2 sizes too small. You can still breathe, but not fully. You can still move, but not freely. You can still function, but not flourish. Your soul wants expansion. Your spirit wants freedom. Your heart wants authenticity. Your energy wants alignment. And the life you built wasn't designed for who you are now. Not realizing this can feel overwhelming at first. You think, did I waste years? Was I sleeping the whole time? Have I been living someone else's life? Did I lose myself? Have I missed my chance? Take a breath. None of this is true. You didn't waste time. You accumulated wisdom. You didn't lose yourself. You were surviving. You didn't miss your chance. You just weren't ready. You weren't aware. You hadn't awakened yet. Your timing isn't late. It's divine. The unlearning happens when you realize the dreams you once had don't match the person you've become. And you're allowed to rewrite them. You're allowed to pivot. You're allowed to change direction. You're allowed to outgrow your old identity. You don't owe your past self a lifetime contract. Let's say that gently. The version of you who made those choices did the best she could with the awareness she had. The version of you now has different awareness, different values, different truth, different alignment. And your choices should evolve with you. This is the moment where your life begins to shift. You feel a pull towards something different, something more expansive, something more aligned, something more you. Not because the old life was bad, but because it's complete. You've outgrown its frequency. You've learned its lessons. You've absorbed its wisdom. You're ready to evolve. Let me tell you something powerful. Just because something was right for you once doesn't mean it's right for you now. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to become. You're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to choose differently. You're allowed to reinvent yourself without guilt, without apology, without explanation. The unlearning begins the moment you give yourself permission to let go of the life that no longer fits so you can step into the life that does. The new life feels lighter, simpler, more true, more aligned, more peaceful, more intentional, less forced, less frantic, less performative, because it's built from truth, not pressure. You're not rebuilding from scratch. You're rebuilding from wisdom. All the versions you've been have taught you what you no longer want. All the pain you've carried has shown you what you deserve. All the healing you've done has prepared you for what's next. Your past didn't break you. It shaped you, refined you, strengthened you, awakened you. The life you want is calling you, gently, quietly, consistently. And the moment you stop resisting, stop forcing, stop clinging, stop doubting, the life that is meant for you begins to unfold. Take a slow breath. In, release. Because segment 4 is where you gather the courage you didn't know you had. Unlearning isn't gentle. It isn't convenient. It isn't comfortable. It isn't glamorous. Unlearning is bold. Unlearning is uncomfortable. Unlearning is messy. Unlearning is sacred. Because unlearning means this. You stop abandoning yourself to keep the peace. You stop betraying your truth to fit in. You stop silencing your intuition to please others. You stop pretending that you don't feel what you feel. The world rewards the mask. Society loves the performance. People admire the illusion. But your soul thrives in truth. Unlearning asks you to take off the mask, even when you're not sure who you are without it. It asks you to speak honestly, even when your voice shakes. It asks you to walk differently, even when the path is unfamiliar. It asks you to choose yourself, even when it disappoints someone else. Courage is not loud. Courage is quiet. It's the moment you say, I can't keep living like this. It's the moment you whisper, I deserve better. It's the moment you admit, this version of me is tired. It's the moment you realize my healing matters. It's the moment you stop forcing and finally allow. Courage is leaving what feels familiar to step into what feels aligned. Not because you hate the past, but because you honor the future. Courage is not an explosion. Courage is a shift, a soft shift, a subtle shift, a sacred shift in frequency, in intention, in awareness, in self-worth. Unlearning requires bravery because it challenges everything you thought was true. It asks, who am I without the role? Who am I without the expectations? Who am I without perfection? Who am I without productivity? Who am I without the mask? Who am I when I stop performing strength and start living truth? This is not weakness. This is awakening. Awakening requires you to walk into your own shadows and face everything you avoided because you were surviving. You look at your patterns, your wounds, your fears, your defenses, your conditioning, your beliefs, your survival strategies, not with shame, but with compassion. Because you finally realize, I developed these for a reason. You see the intelligence behind your coping, the wisdom beneath your walls, the strength inside your vulnerability. You stop blaming yourself for the ways you survived. The courage of unlearning is the courage to meet yourself honestly. No filters, no pretense, no performance, just truth. Soft truth, hard truth, whole truth. You begin to break cycles gently. You begin to release expectations quietly. You begin to honor your boundaries consistently. You begin to say no without guilt. You begin to say yes to yourself without apology. You begin to live differently even if no one understands yet. Courage also means this. You accept that not everyone is ready for your unlearning. Some people prefer the version of you who stayed small, who kept silent, who carried everything, who didn't question anything, who made life easy for them. Not everyone celebrates your awakening. Not everyone is capable of it. Not everyone is willing, and that's okay. You can't expect someone living from survival mode to understand someone living from truth. You can't expect someone rooted in fear to understand someone rooted in intuition. You can't expect someone who avoids healing to understand someone who embraces it. Your evolution will challenge some people. Your unlearning will trigger some people. Your truth will intimidate some people. But your alignment is not an attack. It's a necessity. Courage is letting go without trying to convince anyone. Courage is moving forward without needing validation. Courage is releasing relationships that depend on your self-abandonment. Courage is choosing peace even when your old patterns scream for the familiar. Courage is stepping into the unknown, knowing your spirit is guiding you. Let's pause, take a soft breath, release. Because the next part is where things soften, where the body begins to lead. Where you remember that your nervous system knows the way before your mind does. Before your mind understands, your body already knows. Before your thoughts make sense, your nervous system is whispering the truth. Before you can explain the feeling, your intuition is signaling the shift. Unlearning is not just a mental process. It's a somatic awakening. Think about all the times your body spoke to you before your brain caught up. The tightness in your chest when something wasn't right. The heaviness in your limbs when you were forcing yourself to stay. The knot in your stomach when a boundary was crossed. The energy drop after certain people left the room. The sudden cloudiness that came from emotional discomfort. The headache that arrived when you ignored your intuition. Your body speaks in sensations. Your mind speaks in stories. Unlearning begins when you stop trusting the stories and start trusting the sensations. Your conditioning taught you to override your body. Be polite. Don't make a scene. Ignore how you feel. Push through it. Don't be dramatic. You're too sensitive, but your sensitivity is not weakness. It's guidance. Your body is an antenna, a compass, a frequency reader, a truth detector, and when you learn to listen, everything becomes clearer. You've felt misalignment before you could name it. You've sensed truth before you had proof. You've known something was off without understanding why. That is your body trying to protect you, trying to guide you, trying to reroute you. Because unlearning is not just intellectual. It's embodied. It's felt in the muscles, in the breath, in the heart, in the gut, in the energy, in the stillness, in the tension. Here's something powerful. Your nervous system remembers everything you've survived. It remembers where you felt unsafe. It remembers who made you shrink. It remembers what drained you. It remembers what lifted you. It remembers which environment suffocated your spirit. And when you try to return to those places, your body reacts before your mind can justify it. This is why you feel drained around certain people, anxious in certain homes, tired in certain connections, tight in certain environments, disconnected in certain conversations, uncomfortable in certain spaces. Your body is saying, this isn't aligned. As you awaken, your sensitivity becomes your superpower. You become more aware of your energy, your limits, your needs, your truth. You start to notice who feeds your soul and who drains it, who feels safe and who feels heavy, who makes your nervous system relax and who makes it contract. Alignment is physical before it is emotional. You can heal your mind, but if your body is still holding the old pattern, you will feel stuck. You can tell yourself, I'm fine, but if your body tenses every time you say it, you're not fine. You can say, I'm over it, but if your chest tightens and your breath shortens and your energy drops, you're not over it. Your body always tells the truth. Unlearning means this. You stop forcing your body to stay where your soul is shrinking. You stop pushing yourself to fit where you no longer belong. You stop ignoring the tension, the discomfort, the heaviness, the whispers. You stop overriding the signals. Let's talk about intuitive fatigue. That moment when you feel tired without being physically tired. When you're drained without doing anything strenuous. When the presence of someone makes you feel foggy or dim. When a situation feels wrong, but you don't know why. This kind of fatigue isn't mental, it's energetic. Your nervous system is telling you, this connection is costing too much. And here's something beautiful. Your body isn't trying to punish you. It's trying to move you closer to alignment. It's redirecting you, protecting you, guiding you, preparing you for something softer. You don't need to fight it. You need to listen. Place a hand on your heart for a moment. Feel its rhythm, feel its life, feel its truth. That heartbeat is you. The real you, beneath the roles, beneath the expectations, beneath the conditioned self, beneath the survival mode. Your body carries the truth you've been unlearning your way back to. Take a slow breath. In, release. Because segment 6 is where everything becomes spacious, poetic, and transformative. The identity collapse, the sacred pause, the moment of becoming nobody so you can become you. There is a sacred moment on every healing journey where you stop trying to be someone. Not the old you, not the future you, not the version others expect, not the version you performed. Just you, raw, unmasked, uncertain, open. This moment feels strange at first. like an identity pause, a soft collapse, a letting go. You're not quite who you were, but not yet who you will become. You're in between, a liminal space, a sacred chrysalis, a quiet threshold. This is the gift of becoming nobody for a moment. Not in a depressing way, not in a lost way, in a liberating way. Because when you stop trying to be someone, you finally allow yourself to become who you really are. Unlearning isn't glamorous. It's not fireworks, it's not dramatic. It's spacious, silent, subtle, transformative. It feels like your old thoughts no longer fitting, your old identity dissolving, your old patterns loosening, your old life feeling too tight. It feels like emptying and expanding at the same time. You don't have to know who you are becoming. You just need to stop being who you're not. This is the truth many avoid. Before becoming yourself, you must unbecome who the world told you to be. The nobody phase is not a failure. It's evolution. When you stop identifying with the mask, the real you begins to surface. When you stop clinging to the persona, your soul begins to breathe. When you stop forcing who you think you should be, space appears for who you truly are. This is the spiritual exhale, a soft surrender, a gentle collapse, a release of the false identity. You can loosen the grip on perfection, on control, on expectations, on timelines, on labels, on roles. You can let them fall like old leaves, making room for new growth. In this space, you remember, you don't need to be impressive. You don't need to be productive. You don't need to be validated. You don't need to be admired. You only need to be present. Becoming nobody is actually becoming everything. It's the return to presence, to awareness, to truth, to essence. It's the moment you realize you are not your achievements. You are not your mistakes. You are not your roles. You are not your trauma. You are not your patterns. You are not your past. You are the consciousness behind the story. You are the awareness beneath the noise. You are the soul beneath the personality. You are the presence that simply is. In this phase, the world may misunderstand you. They may think you're lost, but you're not lost. You're shedding. They may think you're confused, but you're not confused. You're recalibrating. They may think you're stagnant, but you're not stagnant. You're rewiring. They may think you're quiet, but you're not quiet. You're listening. They may think you're retreating, but you're not retreating. You're returning. Returning to yourself. Returning to softness. Returning to truth. Returning to alignment. The nobody phase is the most powerful part of awakening, because when you're no longer obsessed with who you think you need to be, you can finally feel who you truly are. You can breathe, you can rest, you can soften, you can feel, you can expand, you can exist without pressure and be without performance. There is freedom in the in-between, freedom in the pause, freedom in the unlearning, and in that freedom, your spirit strengthens, your vision clears, your energy harmonizes, your intuition sharpens. This is the moment before rebirth, the moment before alignment, the moment before truth lands fully. Take a gentle breath here. In slow release. Let yourself soften into the realization that you do not need to rush this part. Awakening isn't a race, it's a rhythm, and the rhythm will carry you exactly where you need to go. The next segment is where everything finds clarity and depth, where we rebuild from truth, where we step forward gently, and where everything comes full circle. And now, after the shedding, after the unlearning, after the releasing, you arrive here, in the clearest space you've ever known, a place where you can finally rebuild from truth instead of programming. This is the moment where things become simple again, not because life is easier, but because you are clearer. You're not choosing from fear anymore, not choosing from old wounds, not choosing from expectations, not choosing from pressure, not choosing from survival mode. You're choosing from alignment, and alignment is a completely different frequency. The old life was built from urgency. Rush, pressure, scarcity, shoulds, obligation, pleasing, performing, enduring, pretending. The new life is built from presence, intuition, simplicity, clarity, truth, peace, softness, self-worth, resonance, authenticity. You start making decisions that feel different. They don't feel forced, they feel guided. They don't feel heavy, they feel light. They don't feel overwhelming, they feel peaceful. They don't feel rushed, they feel in rhythm. They don't drain you, they energize you. This is how you know you're rebuilding correctly. Your soul feels relaxed. Rebuilding from truth means you trust yourself again. Not the old self who was shaped by pain. The real self who is guided by intuition. You stop overthinking. You stop second-guessing. You stop questioning your worth. Without achievement, without perfection, without performance, you are enough as you are. This is empowerment, but not the loud kind. Not the prove them wrong kind. Not the hustle harder kind. Not the force your way through kind. This is soft empowerment, quiet empowerment, sacred empowerment. The empowerment that comes from being aligned, not controlled. From being present, not pressured. From being true, not performative. You begin to build a life that matches your vibration. People who nourish you. Work that aligns with you. Choices that support you. Boundaries that protect you. Spaces that hold you. Relationships that mirror you. And the most beautiful part? You attract people who meet you in wholeness, not in wounds. You don't have to apologize anymore. You don't have to abandon yourself anymore. You choose connections that feel safe, that feel honest, that feel mutual, that feel soft. Because you rebuilt from truth, not survival. Rebuilding also means this. You stop chasing. You stop clinging. You stop forcing. You stop proving. You stop begging for love you've already earned by existing. You begin to live instead of perform. You begin to feel instead of numb. You begin to trust instead of fear. You begin to flow instead of force. You begin to receive instead of grip. The life you're stepping into honors your pace. No rushing, no pushing. No pressure, you go in rhythm with your energy, with your intuition, with what feels true. The old you was constantly exhausted. The new you feels lighter, clearer, centered, connected. This is what unlearning creates. Space clarity, soft strength, embodiment, alignment, self-trust, freedom. You don't need to know the exact plan. You don't need to know the final destination. You don't need to know how everything will unfold. You only need to take the next aligned step, the next true step, the next soft step, the next intuitive step. That is enough. As we close this journey, take one more breath. In, slow release. Let this truth settle in your heart. You rebuild your life not by adding more, but by returning to less. Less noise, less force, less pretending, less performing, less chasing, less pleasing, less pressure and more you. Because you, the real you, the whole you, the aligned you, is more than enough. Always has been, always will be. Welcome home. This has been Valkyrie. Leave a comment of where you are watching from. Thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe.